don't lift up your robe when you're going or sitting amongst the houses. Right? Pretty basic. Welcome back. This is Buddhist Books Podcast, episode 149, Tipiṭaka, part 83, I hope. So you know what that means. That means next time is going to be episode 150, which will be one of the Padmasambhava episodes. So that's fun. Our special guest today, I'm fairly certain, is Amitabha Buddha, who folks who are part of Mahayana Buddhism will be familiar with, as well as those of Vajrayana Buddhism and indeed Chan or Zen. But Theravada, not so much. They just pretty much have Lord Buddha, the disciples, and Maitreya. But pre-sectarian early Buddhism, they don't even have Maitreya. It's just all about Lord Buddha, and by that I mean Siddhartha Gautama, Shakyamuni Buddha, right? So yes, Amitabha here you might have seen as a guest before in this form, or this form, or this form, or indeed this form. But today it's this form. This, I believe, is about a 100-year-old statue. The Sikh family that ran the Tibetan Buddhist store in Darjeeling, it happens, told me that this was Medicine Buddha. But I'm pretty sure that this is Amitabha Buddha. Medicine Buddha usually has the plant growing next to him, like this, who is supposed to be Ratnasambhava, but it's not Ratnasambhava. You can tell because of the plant. That is Medicine Buddha. So we're going to say that this is Amitabha Buddha. If there are any experts in Buddhist iconography who would like to clarify anything I may have gotten a little wanky there, feel free to do so. So, I don't know what's coming up next. We did the confessions last time and we finished them, so I'm just going to dive right in. You probably know better than I do, based on the title of the episode or the opening credits, what we're reading today. But first I wanted to mention, aside from, this is the third episode on the new channel, so for those of you on YouTube, if you don't mind subscribing to the new channel, Buddhist Books Podcast. Also, I've recently revamped the Buddhist Books website, which is on edwardreeb.com. That's EDWARD hyphen, or dash, if you will, REIB.com. From there, just click podcasts and Buddhist books, and you will find there the 10 most recent episodes. And just below that, you'll find six chapters and then the special episodes section. So I've put all the 5 Padmasambhava recitals that we've done so far in, I'm calling that chapter 6, even though it's not coming after Tipiṭaka, but kind of interwoven within, for those who are just watching the main feed. There's, of course, the separate podcast called Tipiṭaka, which some of you might be hearing me on. So on that Buddhist Books website, if you're a scholar or, you're in school or you're in training and you are supposed to read Nissaggiya 4 or, Sangha di Sessa 6 or something, for a test tomorrow, and you'd like to hear me ramble about it, maybe in lieu of reading, though you should read it as well, Mr. or Mrs., Miss, whatever, they, is there a title for that? So yeah, you can go to edwardreeb.com, podcast Buddhist books, scroll down, click Tipiṭaka, and find exactly the scripture you are looking for. Find the rule that you're looking for, and you can also hear my thoughts about it as well. You can find out which of my little miniatures are used to represent the characters spoken about in the story that results in the rule. Or you can you can say, oh, there was that one where he was like, ah! in the thumbnail, or looking outside thoughtfully. You can scroll that way, and so either by name or image, you can select the episode, or you can go, to the other chapters. If you want to hear the Lotus Sutra recitals, it's embarrassing. I was having a hard time with the Lotus Sutra, but the one called Pali Scriptures is just sort of amusing, really, more than anything. That's a lot of just me talking about my background, interspliced between readings of these very scholarly, dry, bird's eye view histories about the Pali Scriptures, not so much Pali Scriptures themselves. That's what we're doing now in the Tipiṭaka section that we're on part 83 of. And then there's the Dhammapada, which was how this whole thing got started, was the 6 episodes in which I read the little, Dhammapada that kind of everybody has a copy of. So, that's it for the preamble. If this is your first time seeing me, go ahead and click here. That'll take you to the Tipiṭaka playlist. Better to start with episode 1 rather than episode 83. You get kind of the setup for the rules, and then you get into the first rule, which is a really juicy one in more ways than one. That's gross. All right, so I will go ahead and get started with the reading. I wonder what it will be. You might also notice that I remembered to open the shade today, so there's more sunlight coming in. Where it was shaded before, there was more light behind me. Anyway, lighting, what can you do? All right, so here we go. Bracket parentheses, good place to start. These rules for training, venerable ones, come up for recitation. End bracket parentheses. At that time, the enlightened one, the Lord, was staying at Savatthi in the Jeta Grove in Anathapindika's monastery. Now, at that time, the group of 6 monks, what are they up to now? Those who are watching the video version of the podcast will note that the cow is back. He's no longer being replaced by a goat. Anyway, so the 6 monks, the infamous 6, dressed with the inner robe hanging down in front and behind. People, 3 dots, spread it about, saying, quote, how can these recluses, sons of the Sakyans, dress with the inner robe hanging down in front and behind, just like householders who enjoy the pleasures of the senses? End quote. Monks heard these people who, 3 dots, spread it about. Those who were modest monks, 3 dots, spread it about, saying, quote, how can this group of 6 monks dress with the inner robe hanging down in front and behind? Then, end quote. Then these monks told this matter to the Lord. Then the Lord, on this occasion, in this connection, bracket parentheses, having given reason to talk, end bracket parentheses. Why? I don't know, it's a new thing being used in the same way that the regular parentheses were used before. Anyway, probably not important. Square brackets in text, it says in the footnote. Well, thank you. I could see with my eyes. Having had the order of monks convened, in the text. What? Anyway, having had the order of monks convened, questioned the group of 6 monks, saying, quote, "Is it true, as is said, that you, monks, dressed with the inner robe hanging down in front and behind?" End quote. Quote, "It is true, Lord." End quote. The enlightened one, the Lord, rebuked them, saying, quote, "How can you, foolish men, dress with the inner robe hanging down in front and behind? It is not, foolish men, for pleasing those who are not, parentheses yet, and parentheses pleased, 3 dots. And thus, monks, this rule of training should be set forth." Quote again, without an end quote from the previous quote. Within the quote, a quote within quotes. Somebody needs to do a little more proofreading this Horner. "I will dress with the inner robe all round, parentheses, me, and parentheses, end quote within quotes, is a training to be observed." End quote. The inner robe should be dressed in parentheses going, end parentheses, all round one for covering the circle of the navel, the circles of the knees. Whoever out of disrespect dresses with an inner robe hanging down in front or behind, there is an offense of wrongdoing. Are we in the wrongdoings now? The chapter section is just called training. All right. There is no offense if it is unintentional, if he is not thinking, if he does not know, if he is ill, if there are accidents, if he is mad, if he is the first wrongdoer. And then it just goes right on to the next one. Okay, I think these are wrongdoings. Like the lowest level of infraction. Okay. 3 dots in Anathapindika's monastery. So at that time, the enlightened one, the Lord, was staying at Savatthi in the Jeta Grove in Anathapindika's monastery. Now at that time, the group of 6 monks put on the upper robe hanging down in front and behind. Oh, okay, so the next to training, there's a footnote, and the footnote says Sekhiyā Dhammā, rules for good behavior, or etiquette. The rules regarding matters connected with discipline. So I will go ahead and call this Sekhiyā Dhammā, and then 1 through however many of these we read. They're not numbered, though. They're just sort of listed. So, all right. Now at that time, the group of 6 monks put on the upper robe hanging down in front and behind. 3 dots, quote, 3 dots. Quote within quotes, "I will put on the upper robe all round me," and quote within quotes, "is a training to be observed," end quote. The upper robe should be put on all round one, having made both edges level. Whoever out of disrespect puts on an upper robe hanging down or in front or behind, there is an offense of wrongdoing. There is no offense, 3 dots, if he is the first wrongdoer. So that whole thing where people noticed and said, hey, that's disrespectful, then the monks noticed and said, hey, and they told the Lord, and the Lord said, is it true that you had your robe hanging in front and behind? Then he said, okay, now let's get that. So that's all written there, but the Polytext Society and their, let's just say, finite wisdom have, thank you, Polytext Society, as always, have decided to replace a lot of that with 3 dots just for the sake of moving through it quickly. A benefit which I am completely undoing with this explanation. And then there is no offense at 3 dots, and then in those 3 dots are the usual. If it is unintentional, if he is not thinking, if he does not know, if he is ill, if there are accidents, if he is mad, and then they include if he is the first wrongdoer. Right? Makes sense? So we'll call that Sekhiyā Dhammā 1 and 2. Let's move on to 3. 3 dots in Anathapindika's monastery. You know what's happening there, right? At that time, the Lord was staying, the Enlightened One was staying in Anathapindika's monastery. It's at Savatthi in the Jeta Grove. Okay, now at that time, the group of 6 monks, always these guys, always, having uncovered their bodies, went amidst the houses. Parentheses, instead of went, read in chapter 4, sat down. What? End parentheses, 3 dots, quote, 3 dots. Quote within quotes, properly clad, I will go, parentheses, sit down, end parentheses, amidst the houses, end quote within quotes, is a training to be observed. So that appears to be the third one. One should go sit down amidst the houses properly clad. Whoever, sit down is in parentheses, whoever out of disrespect having uncovered the body goes, parentheses, sits down, end parentheses, amidst the houses, there is an offense of wrongdoing. Right, okay. I don't know if they're condensing 2 rules into 1 by putting parentheses. Anyway, okay. There is no offense if it is unintentional, if he is not thinking, if he does not know, if he is ill. In chapter 4, it is added here, if he has gone into residence for the rains, end parentheses. If there are accidents, if he is mad, if he is the first wrongdoer. Okay, so I think that's 3 and 4 just shoved into 1. In the 4th one, it's saying what the differences are. Like that. It's okay. So that was 3 and 4. Oh, they're numbered. How nice. All right, 3 dots in Anathapindika's monastery. The Lord was staying, right? Savatthi, Jeta's Grove. Now at that time, the group of 6 monks, making play with hand and foot, went amidst the houses. Parentheses, instead of went, read in chapter 6, sat down. Okay, end parentheses. So in number 5, it's went, and in number 6, it sat down. 3 dots, quote, 3 dots. Quote within quotes, well controlled, I will go, parentheses, or sit down in the other one, right? And parentheses, this is sort of a little obnoxious, but we'll keep going. Amidst the houses, and quote within quotes, is a training to be observed. One should go, parentheses, sit down, and parentheses, the parentheses alluding to rule number 6, where without the parentheses, it's rule number 5. Obnoxious. Amidst the houses, well controlled. Whoever out of disrespect making play with hand or foot goes or sits down, and the other one. Amidst the houses, there is an offense of wrongdoing. There is no offense if it is unintentional, if he is not thinking, if he does not know, if he is ill, if he is mad, if he is the first wrongdoer. So that was 5 and 6 condensed into 1. Next, 3 dots in Anathapindika's monastery. Now at that time, the group of 6 monks looking about here and there went, that's 7, and then in 8, sat down, right? Amidst the houses, 3 dots, quote, 3 dots, quote within quotes, with the eyes cast down, I will go, in 7, in 8, sit down, right? Amidst the houses, and quote within quotes, is a training to be observed, end quote. So fans of the 1970s David Carradine hit Kung Fu, in reference to the line,
remember always that a wise man walks with his head bowed, humble like the dust.
Can say that line from that TV show is a reference to the 7th and 8th rule for good behavior or etiquette, or Sekhiyā Dhammā in the original Pali, from the Tipiṭaka. Wow! We can fill that one in on our big board of movie and TV references to rules in Buddhism that we can find in the Tipiṭaka, I guess. That's a new thing, a new board we've just invented. By we, I mean me. Okay, cool. So, yes, the wise one walks with his eyes cast down until he meets that, cowboy guy who gives him the sun necklace, who tells him,
you know, you walk too much with your head down. You have to keep your eyes up toward the sun.
And then he decides to go with this random cowboy's advice rather than his his mentor back in Shaolin Temple. All right, I'll just keep reading, shall I? Enough silliness. One should go, that's in 7, sit down in 8, amidst the houses with the eyes cast down, looking only a plow's, parentheses, distance ahead, and parentheses. Whoever out of disrespect, looking about here and there, goes, parentheses, sits down, that's in the 8th, right? Goes in the 7th, sits down in the 8th. Amidst the houses, there is an offensive wrongdoing. There is no offense if it is unintentional, if he is not thinking, if he does not know, if he is ill, if there are accidents, if he is mad, if he is the first wrongdoer. Cheers. Today, YouTube. Tomorrow. The day after tomorrow. Right, yeah, of course. But before that, the world. No. I think that's a Hitler quote. Let's avoid those, shall we? Yes. Got enough of that going around with yay and all. Okay. 3 dots. In Anathapindika's monastery, now at that time, the group of 6 monks lifting up, parentheses, their robes, and parentheses, went, parentheses, sat down, and parentheses, amidst the houses. 3 dots, quote, 3 dots. So went is rule 9, sat down is rule 10. Quote within quotes, not lifting up, parentheses, the robes, and parentheses, will I go, for rule 9, sit down, for rule 10, amidst the houses, and quote within quotes, is a training to be observed. Don't lift up your robe when you're going or sitting amongst the houses. Right? Pretty basic. End quote. One should not go, parentheses, sit down, and parentheses, 9 and 10, right? Among the houses with, parentheses, the robe, and parentheses, lifted up. Whoever out of disrespect having lifted up, parentheses, the robe, and parentheses, on one side or on both, goes, parentheses, sits down, and parentheses, amidst the houses, there is an offense of wrongdoing. There is no offense if it is unintentional, if he is not thinking, if he does not know, if he is ill. In chapter 10, it is added here, if he has gone into residence for the rains. So if you go into the residence for the rains, you can lift up your skirt. That's fun. And parentheses, if there are accidents, if he is mad, if he is the first wrongdoer. The first division. That on all round. Cool. All right. Well, that's 9 wrongdoings in one division, or no, 10 wrongdoings. The first division of wrongdoings that we just did in one episode. Oh, I wasn't thinking, and I am mad. I don't need to confess because it's not one of the rules of confession, but I'm guilty of a wrongdoing. But I am the first wrongdoer. No, I am not the first wrongdoer. I've wrong done before, no doubt. Okay, any questions? That was a little bit fun, wasn't it? I think it was. So, yes, next time we will pick up where we left off with the recitals of the Life and Liberation of Padmasambhava, if you're on the main Buddhist Books podcast. If you're on Tipiṭaka, then we'll pick up after that with Tipiṭaka part 84. All right. Just to share something a little bit personal, yesterday we had our meeting with the government here in India and submitted all our documents and had our interview and all this good stuff. And fingers crossed, everything seems to be going well toward me getting my partial citizenship, which is sort of a thing here in India. After 7 years, I can renounce my American citizenship and become a full citizen of India if I want to. We'll see. We'll cross that bridge when it becomes available. But for now, at least I can become an OCI and not have to renew my visa every year and everything, on account of I'm married to an Indian woman. For those who didn't know, that's us. A few years ago, over in ISKCON, the Hare Krishna temple down the street, There's a park near where we live, and it's literally 1 minute walk from my front gate here. You get into the park, and there's a path that goes toward the Hare Krishna temple. There's a path that goes toward Starbucks. You can guess which one I usually take. There's a path that goes toward the Bihai temple, the famous lotus temple. And then there's a path that goes to a Sikh temple and a path that goes to a Buddhist temple. So it's a very Indian park, you might say, here in New Delhi. So, all right. Thank you, Amitabha, for your presence here today. Thank you, I guess, to the 6 monks for playing around with your hands and feet and wearing your robes improperly so that we could get these rules of etiquette based on your lack of it. Okay, so I will go ahead and close with the usual prayer, and we'll go from there. To the north and to the south, to the east and to the west, to the spirits of light among us, and to the spirits below, we send out our reverent love and compassion. May all beings be happy. May all beings be serene. May all beings be in peace. Until next time.